7. I swim until my legs are rubbery and my arms feel like so much limp spaghetti. I've had the kind of practice where, as Coach Dinkle puts it, I've left skid marks on the turn walls. But as I haul myself out of the lap line, I still can't convince myself that I'm wrong about the woman in the locker room. Tammy. I've tried every theory I can think of. My best two are that she's crazy, or that I just misread her expression because I didn't have my glasses on. But I'm not so nearsighted that I couldn't see someone standing right in front of me. And she seemed perfectly sane, except for the little matter of acting like she'd seen a ghost. Done? Merle asks, handing me my towel. I'm not sure what she's been doing for the past 2 hours, but she starts glancing around nervously as soon as I'm out of the water. She's right behind me as we walk into the locker room. I feel like I have an escort. Maybe this is what it's like to be the president, always surrounded by Secret Service officers. The locker room is empty. Tammy and her little girl must have left a long time ago. But Marilee still peers around anxiously as if another Tammy might pop up any minute. I'll grab a shower and change in there, I say, because she's creeping me out. I pull my clothes from the locker. I hide behind the vinyl curtain of the shower stall and let the water stream over my body. When I emerge, fully dressed and ready to go, I find that Marilee has stationed herself right outside the stall. The way she's standing, I'm tempted to ask, is the coast clear? But it's not a joking matter. And my last joke wasn't exactly a big success. Marilee hustles me out of the locker room and past the friendly woman at the front desk, Ronald's mom, who barely gets a nod. Once we're in the car, Marilee throws the gear shift into reverse and exits the parking lot so quickly we're spitting gravel. She drives back through town, silent and grim-faced. Then we're back in her driveway. She turns off the ignition. Neither of us makes a move to open the door and get out. We just sit there. Who? I whisper, surprising myself. I clear my throat. I can make myself heard. I have to. Who did she think I looked like? Dun dun dun. Chapter 8. Marilee's expression reminds me of those speeded-up Doppler radar views on the Weather Channel, where violent storm systems spin and collide and zoom away all in a matter of seconds. She looks surprised and relieved and angry and defensive and sad, very sad, then resigned. I can't tell you, she says. I'm sorry I promised your father I wouldn't talk about that. Disappointment pours over me. I muscled up the courage to ask, don't I deserve a better answer than that? A real answer? Marilee is still watching me. Get out of the car, Marilee, I think bitterly. Walk away. That's how my parents deal with questions they don't want to answer. My anger surprises me because I've never quite counted up all the unanswered questions before. I have a whole lifetime's worth. Where did you live when you were a little girl, Mommy? Why don't I have a grandma and a grandpa like Gretchen and Emily and Tommy and Michael do? Why do we have to move again? Why is everyone else's Mommy and Daddy younger than my Mommy and Daddy? Are you mad at me? How come everybody else in my class has a brother or a sister, and I don't? Why are you crying, Mommy? Where are you going, Daddy? Why are you leaving me here? Where are you now? Tears rush into my eyes, but I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to be like my mother, weak and sniveling and frail. I'm taller than her. I outgrew her. I do not cry. I am fierce and strong, and I just swam 2 miles. And Marilee is still watching me. She didn't get out of the car and walk away. I take a deep breath, very deliberate, steadying. It's Elizabeth, I ask. Do I look like Elizabeth? Marilee doesn't have to say yes or no, because I see the answer in her eyes, her gentle, kind, not so good at lying eyes. How did you find out about Elizabeth? She asks. My mind races, searching for a lie that will free Marilee from her promise to my dad. If I pretend to know everything already, she can't get in trouble for telling me, can she? But I'm not good at lying either. I don't have any practice. My parents were always right there watching me, so I never got a chance to make up alternate versions of my life that anyone would believe. I don't know about Elizabeth, I admit. I just heard the name, but can't you tell me now? Marilee looks heavenward, or at least toward the ceiling of her car. Then she looks back at me. Bethany, she says gently, you have to understand, I'm a teacher. I've spent my life taking care of other people's children, shaping them and molding them and trying to do my best to have them turn out right. After all these years, I've come to accept that there are limits to what I can do for somebody else's child, even when it breaks my heart, even when I think the parents are wrong. You think I should know, I choke out. I do, Marilee agrees, but I won't tell you. I'm shaking my head, angrier than ever. That's not fair, I complain. Marilee takes her hand off the steering wheel and lays it over mine. Don't think too badly of your parents, Marilee says, still in that infuriatingly calm voice. They're doing what they believe is best for you. And I have to say, I only raised one child of my own, but it was no easier supposedly having all the power, all the control. I'm one step away from rolling my eyes, morphing into a teenager, as my friend Lucy calls it. She has 3 older brothers and sisters, and she had years of observing their obnoxious teenage behavior. She claims to have done her first successful eye roll at the age of 5. She's a master at it. Here I am, almost 13, and I've never gotten a chance to perfect my technique. It's hard to roll your eyes at someone who's sobbing. If, Marilee begins, then breaks off listening. The phone is ringing inside her house. Both of us spring out of the car, bound up the stairs to the back door. It leads to a covered back porch, and then there's another door into the kitchen. Marilee fumbles with the keys. I jerk on the doorknob, even though I know the door is locked. Finally, the door is open, and we both spill in, then zoom across the kitchen floor. I reach the phone first. Hello, I shout into the receiver. Daddy? I hear a click, then a dial tone. Hello? I say again. Hello? No one's there, Marilee says gently. He hung up. He didn't wait. And even though I'm fierce and strong and just swam 2 miles, I feel myself sinking toward despair. I slide down on the floor. Marilee catches me. It might not have even been him, she says. If it was, he'll call again. Don't you have caller ID, I asked? Or couldn't we do a dial back? It stars something, I think. 69 or 67, or I'm reaching back toward the phone, maybe reaching for a phone book to look up the right number, but Marilee's shaking her head. No, she says apologetically. My phone company charges extra fees for fancy stuff like that, and I never had either of those services installed. I've just never needed anything like that before. Don't worry, he'll call back. I drop my arm and Marilee hugs me tighter. I picture the two of us on a movie scene, a grandmotherly type and a preteen girl clutching each other, slumped on the linoleum floor of an old-fashioned kitchen, the phone cord dangling above us. The scene is too stark for the kind of movies I'm used to seeing. Hollywood would have to add a sarcastic voiceover to lighten the mood, something like, and then I learned that if you have to be abandoned by your parents in a thicket of mysteries, it's not so bad to be left with someone like Marilee, who's used to comforting 5-year-olds. For a living. Just try to pick a Marilee who also believes in caller ID. In real life, I'm far gone to appreciate sarcasm. All I can do is clutch Marilee and try not to cry. 9. Eventually, we get up off the floor to fix lunch. It's an odd transition. 1 minute I'm slumped over on the linoleum, lost in despair. The next, I'm standing with Marilee in front of a cabinet, examining her collection of Campbell soups. I'm sorry, I just don't keep that much food around, she says. I'm sure you're used to better than this. Hillary's such a great cook. I don't tell Marilee that my dad and I have been living on budget gourmet and lean cuisine and Stouffer's for the past few months. Freezer to microwave to table in 5 minutes or less. It occurs to me now, standing in front of Marilee's cabinet, that I could have made more of an effort. Mom did teach me how to cook back in the days before the constant sobbing. I could have at least boiled some water, thrown in some spaghetti, heated up some jarred sauce, fed myself and my father. You don't know what it was like, I want to protest to somebody, maybe Marilee. Living with all that crying, it saps your spirit, makes you feel like you don't deserve anything better than budget gourmet. But Marilee hasn't accused me of anything, and some form of pride stops me from saying anything bad about my parents. In the end, we settle on tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwiches. Here's a pan. Why don't you heat up the soup while I make the sandwiches, Marilee says. It strikes me as incredibly quaint and old-fashioned, even touching, that Marilee expects me to cook the soup on the stovetop instead of in the microwave. Can I go to the grocery this afternoon? I can go to the grocery this afternoon, Marilee says as she slices cheese. I'll lay in some supplies in case you're here for a while. How long, I want to ask. What's a while mean? But maybe Marilee promised my dad not to tell me that either, and I'm worn out. It's easier to keep our conversation on the level of tomato soup versus chicken with stars, and do you like lots of cheese on your sandwiches or just a thin layer? Then I look over, and Marilee's biting her lip, grimacing. I remember my daughter always hated going to the grocery store with me once she got to be your age, Marilee says in a too loud, too careful, artificial voice. You can stay here while I go. I could download some movies on the TV for you, if you like. I stir milk into the soup and watch the whirls of white turn red. I don't think Marilee is really worried about my hating grocery shopping. She's scared we'll run into another Tammy. She doesn't want me to be recognized again. But suspecting that, knowing that, doesn't do me any good. I'm not sure whether I should call Marilee's bluff or whether I should just play along. I've got no compass for navigating this situation. But it's cozy in the kitchen, stirring soup, smelling grilled bread. It seems so normal. I crave normalcy, even if it's just a facade. All right, I say. So Marilee has me help her make a grocery list after we eat. Do I like chicken, pasta, tacos, stir-fry? Nothing with nuts, right? She says, her pen flying across the page. Absolutely, I say. And I bet you're a big fan of blueberry muffins. Uh-huh. She's already written that down. There's half a smile on her face. Peaches and cream oatmeal, she asks. She's not even waiting for me to nod my head. Wait a minute. How did you know that? Something like panic churns in my stomach. Oh, just a guess. Marilee looks up, jolted, the smile gone. Just thought you might like it, do you? I do. I love it. I used to eat peaches and cream oatmeal for breakfast all the time until I decided Fruit Loops made me seem more like a normal kid. No, I say. I hate peaches and cream oatmeal. Okay, Marilee says, shrugging as if we're still just talking about food. What would you like me to buy for your breakfasts? And I swear the bottom lip starts to curl back under the top of her teeth and starts to make the first sound of Fruit Loops. Corn Pops, I say too emphatically. They're my favorite. Okay, Marilee says as she writes it down. But I think she knows I'm lying.